Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. We're back with another Manchester United news show. My name is Jack. Welcome to the channel. Please do smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new. And we've got plenty to talk about. As you can see on the thumbnail and the title of the video, one in, one out. Jadon Sancho's move to Borussia Dortmund is imminent. And United are potentially looking now, and only in the last maybe 10 minutes or so before we came live, there's been a bit of a spanner in the works, but Manchester United are looking in to a young central midfielder from South America, dubbed as the new Moises Caicedo. And obviously, as we know, Manchester United a few years ago missed out on Moises Caicedo and I won't say refused to sign him, but missed out on signing him for the cheap. And he was worth €100 million a couple of years later. So plenty to talk about. We're going to get into both of them. We're also going to then talk about the meeting that Erik ten Hag has had with Jim Ratcliffe today. Jim Ratcliffe, Dave Brailsford, they've been at Old Trafford, they've been at Carrington, they've been having extensive meetings with all of the backroom staff, including Erik ten Hag and his team, and we'll go through what he has to say about that. We're also going to talk about any potential incomings and changes in the manager area. In the last 24 hours or so since we've been live last, there has been a lot of reports suggesting that Ineos could pull the trigger and actually get rid of Ten Hag, with Graham Potter waiting in the wings to take over. We're also going to talk about the footballing side of Manchester United at the moment as well. Behind the scenes, who's going to be coming in as a director of football? We know Paul Mitchell has been linked with it, so we'll talk about that. And then we'll also talk about contract extensions. We've seen some interesting contract extensions in the last few days. One has been obviously Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and there's been talks as well of potentially probably no longer a fan favorite striker getting a contract extension. So we'll talk about that as well. And of course, as always, guys, get your opinions in. Let me know in the chat your thoughts, your opinions. Smash a like on the video. Hit subscribe if you're new, and all of that good stuff. I will jump straight into it. But anyway, we're going to start, and we're going to talk about Jadon Sancho. Sancho's move to Borussia Dortmund is pretty much done and dusted. It is probably going to get done by the end of the week. However, according to certain reports, it's not a simple loan, and it does include a buy option, which is interesting. And I think it's what most Manchester United fans want as well. You know, we've seen a lot of loan deals, you know, and not just with United. It's common throughout football at the moment now as well. I think it's a lot easier, and it's a new kind of tactic from a lot of, I suppose, clubs and managers and football directors and so on, to actually go out and get a lot of loan deals now, because squads are inflated because of the amount of competitions that are being played week in, week out, year on year. And I think it's a lot easier to get a loan deal done. However, you know, we're talking about Jadon Sancho leaving here. And, you know, I think the majority of Manchester United fans would be happy if we could just sell him and he would be gone, get some money in the door for him, and move on, you know, onwards and upwards. But his wages play a massive part. And then also it's very hard to, you know, to garnish a big transfer fee in January. And, you know, we know historically down through the years that the majority of the spending is done in the summer. And, you know, a lot of clubs, majority of clubs, try to do the odd bargain, little deal here and there if needs must. So I think that's the main reason why Jadon Sancho has found himself looking at a loan deal away from United rather than a permanent move. We have heard some of the details surrounding the loan. I think there's a loan package of €3 million to Manchester United for the 6 months. And I think Borussia Dortmund are absolutely, you know, they've literally just gone to Manchester United and pulled their pants straight down and just started laughing at him, because I think Sancho's wages are going to be a hell of a lot more than that. I think for the 6 month period, he's on 300 and something grand a week. So yeah, I mean, Borussia Dortmund have sold him to us 2.5 years ago for massive fees, and now they're getting him back on loan for 6 months for 3 million. And, you know, United have really got their pants pulled down on this one. But they are so desperate to get rid of him that, you know, they're happy to take the cut. Now, let's get into I suppose, the article here. Manchester United are busy trying to sort out their outgoings with the January transfer window open as the club tries to raise funds for a few potential incomings. For now, loan deals are taking precedent, while hardly any club coming forward to pay the monumental wages of the likes of Donny van de Beek and Jadon Sancho. The Englishman is close to sealing a loan move to former outfit Borussia Dortmund, with the hopes of taking part in friendlies that the Bundesliga side are set to play in Spain this week. The winger has already agreed to a verbal deal with both outfits, trying to trash out the terms of the agreement, with United reportedly paying a large share of his wages. Now, Football Insider has claimed that the deal is not a simple loan deal, but it also includes a buy option set at 25 million. Sancho is on his way to Dortmund's training ground on Thursday to sign the deal before flying to Marbella, where the Bundesliga giants are currently training as part of their Spain camp. Man United forward Sancho is heading to Dortmund to the training ground early on Thursday afternoon to sign after agreeing the terms of a loan-to-buy deal, sources have told Football Insider. It is believed the 23-year-old will complete the move to his former side in the next hours and then link up with the Dortmund squad in the training camp, as we said. The details about the deal, which is set to be an initial loan for the rest of the season with a buy option, not a buy obligation. And that's the key there. It's the key there that Borussia Dortmund are not obliged to buy Jadon Sancho at the end of the year. They have the option to buy him for 25 million. And 25 million is a massive knockdown price. It really is. And I think, look, I think it is important for Jadon Sancho to move on and move on as quickly as possible. And I do hope the kid gets his career back on track. He has got some issues going on off the field. You know, his professionalism has been questioned, and, you know, with 3 clubs now, all 3 clubs that he's been with. And I think the fact that United are willing to take such a knockdown fee for him in the summer goes to show how much they're looking to get rid of him. Now, you know, I hope he does well, and I hope he goes on and burns it up again in the Bundesliga. My concern here is that if Jadon Sancho goes and absolutely tears it up again in the Bundesliga, this option to buy, do Manchester United have to accept that option? So if Borussia Dortmund come in the summer and they go, we're happy with Jadon Sancho, here's your 25 million. Can United say, no, hold on, he's after scoring 20 goals in 6 months for you. We're going to reject that offer. And, you know, we've also got an offer from, I don't know, Juventus for 35, and, you know, Bayern Munich want him as well for 40, or whatever it may be. You know, can we instigate a bit of a bidding war in the summer? That's the issue I have. But I think the most important thing is that he is to leave Manchester United, and he's to do so as quickly as possible. Reports coming out today as well. This is, again, just, what are we talking? We're talking 10 minutes before we went live. This is coming out from Bild in Germany, and also Borussia Dortmund news blog. Jadon Sancho is expected in Marbella tomorrow. After landing, he will undergo his Borussia Dortmund medical check. His first training session with his team is planned on Sunday. So, look, it looks like Jadon Sancho is going to be going on loan initially, and let's see what happens when the summer rolls around about a potential, you know, full transfer. Let's see what people are saying. Let's see. Martin is in. Good to see you. Oshin is there as well. Ben is in. Radcliffe really doesn't rate Ten Hag, does he? Says Oshin. Well, let's get into it. We'll get into it in a moment. Matthew says, hey, fella, did you hear about Dybala release clause? It's around 20 million until the 15th. Would you take him at United for that price? It all depends, Matthew. If we were getting Dybala for 15 million or 20 million and he was coming in on an 18-month contract on 100 grand a week, then I would take him, yes. But my issue with getting in the likes of Dybala for that cut down price is that he will probably be looking for $250,000 a week, you know, and he'll be looking for a 4-year deal. And I think them days, I hope, are long gone, because, you know, we're looking at potentially younger, hungrier, up-and-coming players that we can look at signing for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, whatever it may be. And we've been linked with Dybala about 400,000 times anyway, and he's never signed for us. So, yeah, I would probably skip that one. If the money was right, 20 million on an 18-month deal or a 2-year deal, 2.5-year deal even, on 100 grand a week, then I would go, yes, absolutely. I'll take him as a squad player, 100%. Oshin says, no deal will ever beat Pogba on how much we screwed ourselves. That is true. He also says, Dybala was meant to come to United a few years ago, but didn't fancy Manchester, apparently. No chance he comes now when we're trying to reduce stupid contracts for aging players. Exactly what we said there. Absolutely. Martin says, is there really talk about Ten Hag getting the sack? Well, there has been some rumblings about it. I don't think it's going to be until the end of the season at the very earliest. And I don't want Ten Hag to get sacked. I want him to be given time. I would like him to be given until at least this time next year, because I would like to see what he can do with this whole new football and structure coming in under Jim Ratcliffe. I would like Ten Hag to be part of that structure, because I think he's a very good manager, a very good coach. And I think if the structures are behind him to put the right players in the palm of his hand, I think he could be successful. Let's see. Badger says Ten Hag out. Kyle says really pushing for Europa Conference this season. Dan says Anthony Martial should have gone 5-6 years ago, and given him a contract renewal is complete joke. We'll get into that in a moment. Who do you think is winning the league, says Bobby Boy? I think Man City will win it. I think they'll win it quite comfortably, to be honest with you. Cantona, Keane, or bring back Fergie? Who could rise us up again? We'd need all three of them, probably. Dave says, hey, pal, how's things? If we beat Spurs, what's the better victory? That win or Onana gone to AFCON? Dave, you don't like Onana, don't you know? Dog Runner, thanks for the follow. Much appreciated as well, guys. Yeah, keep your comments coming in, guys. Looking forward to getting through them all as well. But let's move it on to a potential incoming for Manchester United. Now, we spoke at length last night, didn't we, on our show, that what Manchester United need to do is put the whole, model that the likes of RB Leipzig have, the likes of Brighton have, Southampton had in the past, where you identify young up-and-coming players who are on, potential lower contracts with lower transfer fees, and, develop them into world-class players, All of these other teams that we talk about, your Borussia Dortmunds, your RB Leipzigs, your Brightons, they tend to sell on these players and make massive sums of money on the back of them. And it's the whole business model. United wouldn't have to do that. And it's funny because in the last 24 hours, Manchester United have been linked with a really, really good up-and-coming young player. And that player, if I could just get him up on the screen, is Óscar Zambrano. And again, he's coming from South America. So United ready to hijack Luton's transfer as they try to speed up talks for another target. Now, this guy supposedly... Now, I never like these comparisons, but this guy is supposedly the next Moises Caicedo. And we do know that Manchester United missed out on Moises Caicedo a few years ago. I think for as little as 3 million we could have gotten for. And he went, of course, to Chelsea for 100 million then 3 or 4 years later. So, this whole new Jim Ratcliffe coming in, a new kind of approach to, identifying players and, the type of players we get in and, the age kind of brackets that we're looking at for new players coming in. This guy certainly does fit it. Óscar Zambrano has been linked with a winter move to Old Trafford. United are ready to battle Luton for the signing of LDU Quito midfielder Óscar Zambrano, according to reports in Ecuador. The Red Devils are not, blah, blah, blah. We get all through all of that. And now reports in Ecuador insist that they have a strong interest, Man United do, in the new Moises Caicedo. Writing in his column, El Futbolero, journalist Christian Martin insists that Man United and Brighton are looking to hijack Luton Town's bid for the player. Luton have already made an offer for the Ecuador under-20 international, but now the Red Devils and the Seagulls have emerged as other suitors. Man United do not want to repeat the same mistake it made by passing up the opportunity to sign Moises Caicedo, but Brighton are seen as pioneers of signing cheap South American players. He has already accumulated 48 appearances for Quito, would have no problem in obtaining a work permit because he's a youth and international player. And Man United are hopeful of signing another young player too, with the Lille centre-back Lenny Yoro understood to be on the shortlist. Okay, we'll get into that in another night. But anyway, this young player, Manchester United do have real competition for this guy. And we did see again, just before we went live, it's coming out from Fabrizio Romano. So yeah, about 20 minutes before we came live, this broke. Fabrizio was saying that Bournemouth are set to send in a bid for the same player as Zambrano, who's linked with United. The initial proposal will be 5.5 million. That's down as dollars as well. So yeah, United are going to have some competition for this young guy. Now, for $5.5 million, I think it's worth the gamble. It really is. And I think these are the types of signings, like I said. However, we are going to have some stern opposition in terms of trying to sign this player. Reason being is that he's 19 years of age, okay? If you were moving to the Premier League and you wanted game time, would you go to Manchester United? Probably not. Casemiro, Eriksen, Bruno, McTominay, Manu, Hannibal, all these types of players, and you're coming in as a 19-year-old from South America, your game time is probably not going to be the same as Bruno Fernandes, you know what I mean, or anywhere near it. However, if you go to a Brighton, if you go to a Luton, if you go to a... Who else is looking at him, did we say there? Who else was looking at him? There's someone else. Yeah, whoever it is. Anyway, your Brightons, your Lutons, your Bournemouths, you are going to play an awful lot more. And if your whole, I suppose, if your plan is to play first team football and play as much of it as you possibly can over the next 2 to 3 years, between the ages of 19 and 22, then Manchester United is probably not going to be your best option. However, I do think that these types of players are exactly what Manchester United should be looking at, and if we could get a young guy in like that, 19 years of age, see how he develops, put him into games with the likes of Casemiro, with the likes of Bruno Fernandes, with the likes of Kobe Manu, Eriksen, all these players, he will learn an awful lot very quickly. And it's this new footballing structure, by the looks of it, that United are looking to go and sign these types of players, And I think, like we mentioned yesterday, the days of United going out and signing the best players in the world in each position are over, for now, because, we don't have the pulling power. We just don't. So these may be the types of players we have to look at for the foreseeable future. But again, signing 3, 4, 5, 6 players like this could cost you 40 million. And, if 2 players out of the 6 turn out to be, first team regulars for 10 years, that's a pretty good turnaround for that type of money. It really is, given the way, prices are going for players at the moment as well. Desi says, Jack, I can't understand why people want Ten Hag out, because no manager could turn it around unless he brings in a whole new team, and we need a team sorted, and that's going to take time. Yeah, we'll get into Ten Hag in a moment. Chris says, get that piece of shit out of our club. I presume you're talking about Sancho. Is that how much we've fallen? Challenging fucking Luton. Well, look, again, Oisín, when you have young players like this, you are going to be challenging the lower teams, because, these teams are going to be going in there going, I can offer you first team football for 2-3 years for you to improve and, progress. And, then we'll sell you on for 100 million to Chelsea in 3 years' time, like this guy done, like that guy done. And they've got a whole, portfolio of players that you can do it. So that's the reason why we would be challenging with Luton. And I think the only reason why it would be not a difficult battle, but not an easy one for us, is because these teams can offer young players coming from South America a lot more game time than the likes of Manchester United can. We should have this guy scouted and locked down years ago. Leave him be. Caicedo overrated, says Chris. I don't think he is overrated. I think he's a very good player in the right team with the right system. And he just doesn't suit Chelsea, I don't think, and we know how much of a shit show Chelsea is. Casemiro and Eriksen probably gone at the end of the season. We need to replace them now rather than panic at the time. Not ideal for us, says Chris. Planning is key. Fail to prepare to fail. Absolutely. We are not signing a 19-year-old and then sell him. No, we're not. Again, but that was my point, is that, we can have each layer of the you know, the RB Leipzig business model of signing young players, developing them, turning them into really good footballers and selling them on. We can have that business model without the selling on part, you know, because we don't need to sell them on. And, you know, your RB Leipzigs and your Borussia Dortmunds, that's their whole business model on how to generate money, you know, and United don't need that. I think Casemiro needs to go, says Maxi. I don't think so. You know, now, obviously, look, we'll see how he gets on for the remainder of the season. But I think Casemiro still has an awful lot to offer. And we can't afford to be letting go of players like that when, you know, the likes of Scott McTominay are still at the club. You know, people saying that Casemiro needs to go before they say that, you know, Scott McTominay needs to go. I'm sure the majority of people would say that Scott McTominay needs to go as well. But I can't understand why people are focusing on Casemiro. You know, Scott McTominay needs to be fucking sold before anyone else. And let's worry about Casemiro in the summer, you know, and see how he gets on for the next 6 months. Chris says, that kid will never see the field. We are not a development club. We need to build our first team first and then start dealing with these players. But you fall into a tricky trap, though. That's my issue there. You know, if you're building the first team up and you can't buy tier one players like your Jude Bellinghams or your Harry Kanes or your Frankie de Jongs, are you going to settle for a tier two player who's not quite good enough, or, you know, and that we overpay for? Or do you go out and get a young, hungry, up and coming? I mean, Ranić said it. First and second contracted players, you know, looking to make a name for themselves that are fucking hungry. Ajax have been doing it. Ajax got to a semi-final of the Champions League with a bunch of absolutely unknown players that were scouted really well. And if this guy is a well-scouted player, I'm all for it. Get him in. Give him 15 games a season. Give him 10 games between now and the end of the season, whether it be substitute appearances. And let's see what he's made of. $5.5 million is a drop in the ocean in terms of a transfer fee if he does turn out to be a diamond in the rough. And I think we do need to add these types of signings in amongst, you know, established signings as well. You know, if you're going to be going out and signing, you know, I don't know, whoever it is, a Harry Kane or a De Jong or whoever it might be. I think it's important that we get the balance right as well. First team needs to be fixed, and you can do the buy and sell part. Oshin says, I'm not saying Casemiro needs to go. I just feel he will go. Yeah, that's yeah. And again, that's up to the likes of Sir Jim Radcliffe sitting down with, you know, the footballing directors. He will have to be replaced. That's the issue. And who do you replace him with? You know, do you go out and replace him with another 70 or 80 million pound signing? I mean, that's going to have to be, you know, discussed in depth between now and the end of the season. I'm sure Ten Hag will have a say in that as well. Chris says, they say Brailsford wants to decrease wage budget by 13 million. I actually heard 30 million United are looking to decrease it by. Yesterday. Now, I again, you know, probably different reports we're reading, but I do certainly agree with it that the wage budget does need to come down 100%. It really does. Until they show me that we will only pay 5.5 mil, then okay, we never pay that. But again, when have we last signed a up-and-coming player directly from South America? You know, we tend not to do that, and that's the thing. Let's see what people on TikTok are saying here. How many years will it take to catch Liverpool? They're back on their perch so fast. Well, they're not above us on the perch because we've still got one league title more than they do. So yeah, they're still knocked off their perch, in my opinion. But it will take, it doesn't have to take 4 or 5 years. It can be, you know, if you put the right things in place, and Ranić said it as well. You know, I find myself going back to what Ranić has said an awful lot, because a lot of what he said has made sense and come true. It doesn't need to take 3, 4, 5 years. If you put, you know, a plan in place on the way you want to play, with the footballing director and the sporting director and the owner and the manager all pulling in the same direction and signing players that fit that mold, it doesn't have to take that long. It can take a year or two. You know, you see with Liverpool, you know, Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp for the first couple of years were doing nothing really. And then all of a sudden they signed Van Dijk, they signed Alisson, and they signed Salah, I think in the space of about 12 to 18 months. And all of a sudden they instantly went from a top 4 team to challenge him for the league straight away, you know. So that's what it takes. That's what it takes. Casemiro and Varane are players we need to hold on to. Their experience is key for us. And I agree with that, Dan. I mean, I would be in no hurry to get rid of both of them. And we will talk about Varane in a moment because, you know, I think like, I know Varane is injury prone and we are paying him a lot of wages. And there has been reports suggesting that potentially we will be looking at, you know, extending his deal, but looking to do it on a reduced terms. And if he is happy to do that, then I would be delighted to give Varane another, you know, 2 years, 2.5 years, you know, at Manchester United. But as a squad player, you know, I would still be looking to go out and sign, you know, your established 22, 23-year-old, you know, who's ready to take over as the first choice right-sided centre-back with Lisandro Martinez. And then you have Varane as a squad player. Now, players, you know, that win an awful lot throughout their career tend to not be happy with that role. So I would be surprised if Varane does that. And if that is the case, that he does leave, then all of a sudden you need to sign 2 centre-backs because Varane is gone. You still want your, you know, your first choice right-sided centre-back, and you probably want another squad player as well to, you know, to be there with the likes of Lindelof if we do get rid of Maguire, so on and so forth. 1 league title in 30 years, you're and you're back on your perch. Behave, good man. Exactly. Chris says, because we suck at South American players, see Cleberson, De Silva, Forlan. Well, Forlan was a good player. I don't care what anyone says. He just didn't hit the ground running at United. He went on to have a really good career. If we had our shit together, we would have signed Gakpo and Gravenberch, who play well for Liverpool, both under 21. Says Chris. We don't agree on a few things, but you're speaking absolute truths here, says Dave. Why don't we play high-octane football, says Mayers. We don't have the players to do it on a consistent level. So yeah, there we go. Anyway, guys, let's move it on and let's talk about Erik ten Hag and Jim Ratcliffe. Get away from transfers a little bit because we do know, and we did hear today, that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Erik ten Hag did have a pretty in-depth interview, and Erik ten Hag has addressed the Jim Ratcliffe meeting as Manchester United manager. Also provides Jadon Sancho update. Let's go down through it. He described his first meeting with Sir Jim Ratcliffe as very positive, but admitted he still has much to learn about the billionaire's plans for Manchester United. First and foremost, I would say about that line is that Jim Ratcliffe holding back a bit because he's going to himself, you're not going to be the man for me, so I'm not going to tell you what my plans are, or, you know, is it just the first meeting of many? I would hope. Radcliffe's Ineos group will assume control of footballing operations once his purchase of a 25% stake in the club has been ratified in the coming weeks. And he has been in Manchester this week for a series of meetings with club staff. The meetings have been described as an opportunity for Radcliffe, as well as senior Ineos officials Sir Dave Brailsford and Jean-Claude Blanc, to get to know the club before they start work in earnest. It was very positive, I have to say, Ten Hag said. We had a long meeting, many hours we sit together, and on many issues we are on the same page, so it was very positive. Radcliffe will take control of footballing operations. Yeah, sorry, we said that already. I think from both sides, it was very constructive. It was a very constructive meeting, and we look forward to working with them. But asked if Ten Hag has been able to gain a clear idea of what might change under Radcliffe, Ten Hag said, we have to let it settle down. They're just coming in, introducing themselves. They have good ideas. We have to see what we can integrate. In togetherness, we will work on that, but after one day, you can't tell that. They have given me a few ideas. We have had our debates about strategies, and I think we will come together. So there we go. So it's not all rosy, according to... Now, look, I mean, Ten Hag doesn't beat around the bush, in fairness to him. So yeah, I mean, it does look like... you know, Ten Hag has his ideas. Jim Ratcliffe has his ideas. And, you know, Jim Ratcliffe is going to be the new owner and the new boss of Erik ten Hag. So I do like to see, the manager having some form of control. Now it doesn't have to be full control. That's the one thing I would say. We've been talking in depth over the last few days about, what kind of role Erik ten Hag is going to have under Jim Ratcliffe. And I think, given the fact that Ratcliffe is coming in, he's putting a structure in place with your sporting director, your director of football, your CEO, all of these kind of things. I don't want to see Erik ten Hag have no say in transfers, because basically what you are then is you're a first team coach, and you're exactly what a manager of Chelsea, for example, might be. And that's, here's the team, go and work with what you've got. And that hasn't worked. It really hasn't. So I think there has to be some kind of element of where Erik ten Hag has an input in what players may or may not sign for Manchester United. Doesn't mean he has to have the final say, but he has to have a plan on the type of player he wants and a list of players that he would like to sign. And then I'm sure your football director, your CEO, whoever else that may be involved in the transfer process will have their players on a list as well to say, oh yeah, look, we've matched with that one and we've matched with that one. Okay, well then let's go for them too. Because the last thing you want is, Erik ten Hag to turn into a Graham Potter and go, we're going to just deliver 15 new players to you. Off you go. Because ten Hag is going, well, I didn't want any of these 15 players, or so on and so forth. Now, look, we do know as well that Erik ten Hag, when he signed for Manchester United, part of his contract had said that he will have a veto on, transferring decisions. So he does have some pulling power at the moment in relation to who Manchester United sign. And look, his transfer dealings at Manchester United have been checkered. Okay, that's, I think, fair to say. He's got some right and he's got some wrong. We look at, Martinez, for example. I think Highland is a great signing. Casemiro, Ericsson, they've all been good signings for Manchester United. But then you look at Anthony. You look at who else have we got? You look at Onana at the moment hasn't really hit the ground running, although I do think he will be a good signing. So there has been pluses and minuses in relation to who ten Hag has signed. And he does know football more than any other person that's going to be involved in the transfer process. And I think that for that reason alone, I think it is important to keep him there in some capacity in relation to the transferring decisions. Now, we look at Erik ten Hag and what he said already about the interview that he had today with Jim Ratcliffe. And, Erik ten Hag has 6 months to prove himself, in my opinion. He really does. And if he doesn't, and if, we get a full cohort of players back, your Casemiros, your Martinez's, whoever else is out injured at the moment, we've got constant injuries. But you get a full squad of players back and results don't improve, the knives are going to be out for Erik ten Hag. Ineos's preference, according to Rob Dawson in ESPN, is to keep Erik ten Hag until at least the end of the season. Although there is an acceptance that more poor results may force Jim Ratcliffe and his employees to act sooner. Okay. And I think that is absolutely fair. I really do. I want Erik ten Hag to be our manager. I want him to succeed. And I want him to do well and to win more trophies at Manchester United. Because we can see, he's already proved that he can do it. He's got us into the top four. He's got us, a trophy. He's got us to the final of the FA Cup. We fucked up the Europa League. We really should have gone on and won that as well. So he has proven that he can win trophies at Manchester United and be successful. It's been a very, very difficult season so far for Manchester United. And I don't care what anyone says, opposition fans or Manchester United fans. Like, I can't emphasize enough how much injuries play a part in our season this year. I just can't. I can't emphasize it enough. It's been a massive reason why we've had such a decline in what we've done last year. It's not the only reason. Erik ten Hag has made mistakes. I think a really long season last year with a very short off season and then a quite extensive preseason. I don't think that's helped either. And that's probably one of the issues that you would probably lay blame at Erik ten Hag's feet, I would have to say. But I think the main one is the injuries. So if we can get all of our injured players back and back playing to the intensity levels and the quality that we had last year, and results don't improve, then I will say, okay, maybe it is time to go. However, who do you get? And we've been saying this, and I've been answering, questions on TikTok and on YouTube about it over the last few weeks, as the pressure has been mounting on Erik ten Hag. Everybody that says Erik ten Hag out does not have an idea on what should happen after he goes or who should replace him. Everybody, and I hate all of this negativity around, or these baseless statements saying ten Hag out, without offering up a solution. Ten Hag is a good manager. You name me a manager that would have got more out of this season with the injuries that we've had, with, all of the issues that have gone before us, last season, bringing us into this season. We're going through a difficult period. We really, really are going through a difficult period. And I think the man deserves time to try and get us out of that difficult period. I would give him another 12 months minimum. Okay. And if this time, if by the transfer window next January, things haven't improved, then we go, right, Eric, look, it's not working out. It's time to go. But I would certainly give him that amount of time. I want to see how he gets on with a footballing structure behind him, a footballing director, a CEO, a sporting director, so on and so forth, and a clear identity on how we want to play and the types of players that the new owner wants, to sign for Manchester United. So I think that's important. However, in the past 24 hours, this guy has reared his ugly head again. Graham Potter has been informally sounded out about his plans for the future by Ineos, and Blanc has been inundated with calls from agents pushing the claims of their clients. I am so completely against Graham Potter coming in and taking over at Manchester United. He done a really good job at Brighton. I will give him that. Okay. First and foremost, the only trophy he's won, I was reading it today, was in Sweden, in one of the Swedish cups, I think, in 2016. That's the only trophy he's ever won. And you want him to be the man to come into Manchester United and get us back winning Premier League trophies, challenging for Champions Leagues, FA Cups. I really don't see it. I really don't. I think when he went to Chelsea last year, he looked out of his depth. I don't think he was quite able to handle the pressure of managing big name players. He was quite, and I know this is not fair on him, but he was quite boring in interviews. And I know Erik ten Hag doesn't like the world, set the world alight. But I love the way Erik ten Hag is to the point. There's no messing with him. He's stern. He answers each question without elaborating too much, and I like that. Whereas Graham Potter, it was nearly the same interview each time, the same answers, and he didn't really inspire me in any way. He didn't, go, yeah, this is the man. This is the man. I would be completely against it. I think we've got a better coach in Erik ten Hag, and I think we've also got a better manager who's able to cope with dealing with a big club like Manchester United. Ajax is a huge club. It might not be as big as it was in the 70s and 80s in terms of, winning European Cups and all that kind of stuff. But Ajax is a massive club, not just in Holland, but in Europe. And he got them to a Champions League semi-final. He won the league, God knows how many times with them. He's now having a difficult spell at Manchester United, but I think he is by far a better choice. I would leave Erik ten Hag in. If you're going to bring in Graham Potter and give him 2 years to see what he can do, just leave Erik ten Hag there for another 2 years. It would be the better solution, in my opinion. Let's see. Eddie Howe should be out first. Arteta out. Pochettino out. Eric Ten Hag, 3 years minimum, says Chris. Potter needs to stay at Hogwarts. Let's see what people on TikTok are saying. United's decline since Ferguson left has been unbelievable. Every manager since can't be the problem. I agree. He has to turn it around quickly or he'll be gone at the end of the year. I agree. Varane in or out? In until the end of the season, minimum. He hasn't a clue. He played Martial and asked for Anthony. He asked for Anthony at 35 million. If Anthony was putting in the performances he's putting in, or that he has put in for Manchester United, and we paid 35 million for him, would there be this much of an issue? I don't think there would be. Manchester United could have got Anthony for 35 million at the start of the summer transfer window last summer, and we dicked around with Frankie de Jong, and by the time we went back to Ajax, they had already sold 3 players, and they said, we can't afford to lose him. So if you want to buy him, minimum 90 whatever million it was. So United paid it. Eric Ten Hag didn't pay that money. He wanted Anthony at the start of the transfer window for 35 million. That's not his fault. Aidan says, just checked in. Is there any player United are looking for in the transfer window this January? Loans only, by the looks of it. Cormac, thanks for the follow. Much appreciated. Red, thanks for the follow. Much appreciated. Graham Potter, no thanks, says Red. Kieran says Potter is the worst option as well. So, yeah, look, I wouldn't be for it. I really wouldn't be for it at all. Finally, guys, before we get into the last topic, I do want to let everybody know that in less than 20 minutes' time, we're going to be doing our Football Manager live stream as well. We're doing a Manchester United rebuild on our live Football Manager stream on YouTube only. So anybody that's watching on TikTok, if you want to get involved in our Football Manager live stream, get over to YouTube. We're live over there now at the moment. Link is on my homepage. Head over to YouTube, hit subscribe, get involved. Really enjoying the Football Manager streams, guys. We're doing well. We're into the top 4, and we're also 2 wins from 2 in the Champions League as well, topping the group. So we're doing well. So make sure you're sticking around, guys. Once the news show ends, we're going to do another maybe 5 minutes or so. If you're watching on YouTube, you can stay where you are. You'll automatically move over to the lobby of the Football Manager stream, and we're going live there at 9 o'clock. So make sure you're getting involved in that as well, guys. Looking forward to it. Right, let's get into contract extensions finally in relation to Manchester United. Kipiri, thanks for the gifts, much appreciated. So yeah, contract extensions at Manchester United are something that has been a hot topic in the last few days. Obviously, we've seen Aaron Wan-Bissaka got a contract extension. He's now here until the summer of 2025. That's unless Manchester United, potentially move him on in the summer. But Ten Hag today has confirmed contract extensions for 3 players and ongoing talks for 2. Let's get into it. Eric Ten Hag provided an update on the contract situation regarding several players at Manchester United. Firstly, supporters were made aware of Victor Lindelof's 1-year extension being triggered by the club this week. The board have since decided to take the same route with Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Hannibal Mabry, keeping the trio's future at Old Trafford safe until at least next summer, which is good. We mentioned Lindelof last week, I think, wasn't it? Damasco, thanks for the gifts. Much appreciated. We talked about Lindelof last week. And I think I said I thought it was a very good idea that we gave Lindelof a contract extension. And the reason for that is that you need squad players and you need happy squad players. And Lindelof has always been a kind of a player that has, been happy to be a rotation player. And doesn't throw his ties out of pram, is very professional and just gets on with his job. So I'm happy with that. Wan-Bissaka just puts his head down and does his job. So I'm really happy with that. And then, of course, Hannibal is a young up-and-coming player. So we want to keep hold of them as much as possible. Whether we loan him out or not is another thing. But delighted to see the 3 of them getting contract extensions. It was announced recently that United would not activate the same clause for Rafael Varane's contract, with his deal set to expire in June this year. Reports suggest that his 340 grand a week wages have deterred the club from extending said terms. So negotiations could progress if the Frenchman is willing to decrease his salary. Now, he is open to negotiate with any other clubs outside of England at the moment. So if he does get any approaches from clubs outside of England, he can take them on board as well. Talks are underway as it stands, though. According to Ten Hag, he revealed today that discussions are being held over Varane and Anthony Martial's situation. Now, let me go full screen for this. Anthony Martial getting a contract extension at Manchester United would probably cause as much uproar as we seen before the Liverpool game, where fans broke into the ground looking for Glazers out. If Anthony Martial gets a contract extension at Manchester United, he will see out his contract at Manchester United and continue to collect the wages that he's getting, which, by the way, are way too much than what he should be getting. Martial should have been gone out of the club minimum 5 years ago. And he's still there picking up a check every week or every 2 weeks, depending on how often they get paid. Ten Hag said, we are talking with Varane and Anthony Martial. The manager told in a press conference today, we have triggered the options on Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Victor Lindelof and Hannibal. I think Martial and Varane's contract is an internal discussion between the club and the player. So, is this Joel Glazer? We know he loves Anthony Martial. Is this his last, real go at, making some footballing decisions before he hands it over to Radcliffe in another few weeks? I hope to God we don't. But if Anthony Martial gets a contract extension at Manchester United, call it off. Call the whole thing off and just go home, because it would be the most unjust contract extension that has ever happened in the history of football. It really, really would. Jared says, evening all. Sorry I'm late. My opinion, Ten Hag hasn't been backed at all. He's had to deal with Sancho twice, the Greenwood situation, and much more, etc. He needs to be backed. I agree with you, Jared. I really do. And you can throw the Ronaldo situation into that as well. Name the first choice options that he's got, bar Andre Onana. I don't think he's got one outside of that. Maybe Anthony, but we know the issues around Anthony. We shouldn't have paid that much money for him. United shouldn't have paid that much money for him. Martinez was second option after Timber. Casemiro was a panic buy. Eriksen was on a free. Mount was because we couldn't get Frankie de Jong. Highland because we couldn't get Harry Kane. We couldn't buy a right back. We tried to get Frimpong, couldn't get him, so we gave Delo a new contract. We signed Malacia as a kind of a backup to Luke Shaw at 15 million. He hasn't got his first choice options. So I agree with you. Again, look, we talk about Rafael Varane, and it has been suggested today that United are ready to sell Varane for 30 million this month, with the Saudi League clubs interested. I've made my point clear on this an awful lot. I don't want Varane to be sold in this transfer window. I want him to stay minimum until the summer, because we will not replace him in this transfer window if we sell him. We just won't. We're not going to sign it to Debo, I don't think, in this transfer window. He's probably going to stay until the summer as well. Any other centre-backs that we're being linked with, I don't think are good enough, really. I would rather keep Varane till the summer, hope he stays injury-free, and go out and get your first-choice centre-back in the summer. But guys, look, we're going to leave it there. Like I said, we're going straight into our Football Manager stream now in just over 10 minutes time. So anybody that's watching on YouTube, stay where you are, and you'll automatically move over. But yeah, I hope to see everybody in there at 9 o'clock in just over 10 minutes time. Anybody watching on TikTok, if you do want to get involved in the Football Manager stream, get over to YouTube. Link is on my homepage. We're going to be live over there in about 10 minutes time. So make sure you're getting involved in the Football Manager stream. Really enjoying it. We've got some big games coming up. We're playing Celtic in the Champions League, first versus second in our table. So I think if we can win that, I think it's pretty much sewn up that we're going to qualify. And we're into the top four as well. And a lot of winnable games coming up. So join us over on YouTube, guys. Anybody that's watching on TikTok, like I said, link is on my homepage. Anybody watching on YouTube, smash a like on the video if you haven't already done so. Hit the subscribe button on your way out if you're new to the channel. Thanks for watching. We will be back live. If you're not joining us for our Football Manager stream, we will be back live tomorrow night at the same time for more Manchester United news updates. So join us then as well. And as well, guys, I just want to let everybody know as well, I'm going to mention it on every live now, that we are doing a match build-up video before every game for the remainder of the season. And what it entails is I would like to get you guys, anybody that supports and watches the channel, to send me anywhere between 30 and 60 seconds, a clip of yourself with your match predictions. You know, your match preview, who you want to see starting, your score predictions, whatever it may be. Just take out your phone, if that's your phone, put it in landscape mode, record yourself for up to 60 seconds and send it to me. And I'm going to put them all together, and we're going to put it up as a video maybe an hour before the match as a build up to the watch-alongs each day, each game. So if that's something you are interested in, get on it now, because we're playing on Monday night against Wigan. Get them sent to me. Send them to me by email if at all possible. United Community Channel at outlook.com. I will put it into the description of the YouTube video here as well. Yeah, you can get it. Anybody on TikTok, you can see there's actually an email button on my homepage, so you can click it and copy the email address from there as well. But yeah, I'd love to see someone or a few people sending over some videos, guys. So get your 60-second match previews in. Send them over to me. I'll put them all together. Get them to me before Sunday if you can. I'll put them all together Sunday, and we'll put it up as a video on Monday before the game. But thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in about 10 minutes' time on the Football Manager stream. Thanks for watching. See you in a bit.